in the practice, and you could be the master of the cave too.
Absolutely. It is a great place to get started is Conduit. Get your sort of toes wet on what it's like to race this game. And, I mean, it's what kind of keeps this game alive. Obviously, the competitive leaderboards is a nice touch, but I think the racing is just, it's super fun. It's really fun to do. There's a very, I shouldn't even say this, but there's a small part of me that wishes there was a competing Necrodancer racing league that I could compete in. Because I want to race
Midway,
too.
the mid-level?
No, just that I don't have to be the host of or something.
Oh, the host, yeah.
Maybe I'll compete in CoNDOR or something. I don't know. I'll just go move to France.
Canada's like Europe. You have funny money and the Queen's still there. It's the same thing.
And we all
CoNDOR is
talk
for
funny,
people
right,
who can't do normal.
And yeah, you all talk funny.
What's that, Inkdun?
CoNDOR is for people who can't do CoNDOR, so like you should do it.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. But anyways, guys, so that's it for the tournament. It was just a short sort of get back into racing. We're gonna pick it up and keep going every single weekend from here on out till the foreseeable future. We're gonna do a lot of the sort of fun tournaments like the Father-Daughter Dance and CoNDOR, Conduit coming up. Hopefully another Con Score, maybe a Bard Lap. I really want to see a Bard Lap coming up, and I'm sure the community has a lot of opinions on what we will see next. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna actually move over into our Town Hall meeting, and we're gonna talk about, it sounds so lame when I say Town Hall meeting. We need to come up with a better term for it. But we need to sort of decide what's going to happen with Season 4. So we have lots of ideas. So what I'm going to do is move to a different chat. And we're going to start with just the CoNDOR staff. We're going to talk about what we've already sort of thought about, decided, sort of pseudo-decided. And then from there, we're going to talk to you guys about what you think would be the best thing for Season 4. So thanks everybody who's part of this tournament. It was super fun. Congratulations to Jack for winning, and Ink for putting on one heck of a show. And of course, Arachnus, thank you so much for your reffing abilities. And Inknun, also thank you for your bot, because I think it went pretty much smooth, like super.
Oh
smooth.
Man, it was.
That bot's awesome.
Yay.
No, not like nobody watching saw it, but yeah, trust me, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a behind the scenes
working
thing.
out.
What's that? Sorry.
I'm glad it's working out.
Yeah, totally. And already had some ideas for how we can implement it into Season 4 in a real way, which is exciting. So with that, I'm going to move over to our CoNDOR internal discussion zone, and we'll get things started with that. So yeah, thanks everybody. Okay, so all right, so voice connecting, there we go. So I'm not sure if I'm having some issues with Discord's voice. Let me know, Arachnus, if we're having some weird issues or anything like that. It looks like I am dropping frames again, so that's great. So I'm probably going to look all stuttery. We should call it the Condress instead of Congress. I like that. The Hall of Necrodancers. Yeah, we got to come up with a better name. So we'll get Will Arseny in here, and then any of the other CoNDOR staffers, although it's mostly the three of us, I think. I'm not sure if Mac's around, although I think Mac's
I just
going to be...
Will know. He's going to be heading over.
Nice. All right, so what we're going to do, if you don't mind, if you happen to have the link to the document we've been working on, that'd be good to talk about.
Yeah, here you go.
Cool, thank you. So
I will.
If you guys are taking off in chat, if this sort of background stuff doesn't totally interest you, I super understand. That's totally fine. But I hope you enjoyed the races. I know I did. And I hope to see you again next week. Saturday, it's going to be CoNDOR, which is the European. There's still time to sign up if you want to be part of it. What is it? signup.condorleague.tv, I think. Let's make sure that works.
I think.
Thank you guys.
Hey, what's up, Will?
Not a lot, just eating some pizza.
Oh, that's what I had for... What kind of pizza?
It is spinach and ricotta.
Woo! Fancy!
Sounds good.
Crazy stuff, I know.
Awesome.
Oh, shoot, I'm not...
All right, so we do have some stuff to talk about. So if you guys are hanging around, thank you for doing so. We're gonna sort of open it up as like a bit of a forum thing. So if you guys want to chat about, you know, anything, that's fine. But we're gonna try and work through various topics. I guess we'll mostly be talking about Season 4. I'm not sure if we're gonna talk about too much other things, unless people have some pressing news about CoNDOR. Maybe we'll just start with that, and then we'll zone in on Season 4. So if anybody has any sort of tips and tricks, obviously don't have frame drops would be a good one to put on the list. So we'll start there. But if anybody has anything they want to say in chat, that's cool. Towards the end, we'll open up the voice channels a little bit more. We'll have people in if they want to do some actual talking on here. But for this point, it's gonna be just me, Will, and Arachnus for now. But we do have chat open. We're reading it right now. So if you do have anything you want to talk about, like if you want us to like totally get rid of Fridays and just do Saturdays, like anything goes. We might say like, I don't know if that's gonna work or not, but do whatever you can to, or post whatever you feel. Now's your chance. If you've ever wanted to like have an impact on a racing league on Twitch, now's your opportunity to do so. So feel free to drop us some information, that sort of thing. Seems like chat's mostly not interested in that, which is totally fine. I'm not sure if we send out a raid message or a raid for Hyphenated there. I'm just gonna make sure we did. Sorry that's a little late there, but definitely go follow Hyphenated. He is, just like one of the nicest people on Twitch. He also has an amazing stream. He does a lot of really good back-end work with bots and things like that. He also does a lot of the lore, or not lore, but the I guess testing and stuff for Binding of Isaac. So if you're big into Binding of Isaac, check that out. Yeah, I am losing a lot of frames. I'm sorry about that. Suggest get rid of Mondays. Hate going to work on Mondays. That's fair. Yeah, I wonder if because of all the frame drops, like the Twitch delay is real bad. That could be as well. Which you guys will probably notice as well, since presumably Discord is real time and it's a little bit behind there. Because now we're getting all these responses.
Yeah, I would say you're like slideshow to me.
Yeah, that sucks. It is good now. Let's see if we can get a refresh from everybody. That might be a good call, and then we'll be a little bit closer so we can actually interact with chat. That's one of the worst things. When they added the Twitch delay, I was so mad because it got so much harder to interact with chat. Another Saturday on Mondays, it's a good idea. Custom Dungeon CoNDOR. Love it. I think that's a great idea. So, I think
we were kicking around some formats for that for a while. I don't know when we'll have time to do it. If we did it, it'd be at the beginning of February before Season 4 starts.
Right. It might be something that we kind of collect dungeons throughout CoNDOR 4 and then do it at the end of CoNDOR, after CoNDOR 4. Or something. Yeah, because I imagine it's going to take a while for people to put these dungeons together.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to make sure people had time to like build stuff, be good. But yeah, it was definitely something we had in mind.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I think it would be really, really neat. And we've done a little bit of chatting about this idea. I don't know if anybody in chat saw. So again, refresh if you can. That'd be good. But I don't know if anybody saw the AGDQ Mario Maker race. It was really cool, and it would sort of reflect that with the custom dungeon tournament. So I think we could have something along those lines, which would be really cool.
Yeah, the main thing is that if you are going to work on one and you're going to want to do it in this kind of tourney, don't show it to people unless you're sure they won't be in it, because, obviously that's going to totally ruin it, because it would be blind plays of the custom dungeons.
That's right. Yeah, we don't want people to like learn the seed. We want them to be blind. So yeah, definitely do that. That's an interesting idea, Ron. I'm not actually that like. I don't really want to compete in CoNDOR. I just want to race. So I probably should just get on SRL a little bit more and see if we can revitalize that a little bit. But yeah, racing is fun.
We might not even need SRL anymore. We might have a easier solution pretty soon.
That's a good
I don't want to
point.
give away everything Inknun's working on, but really exciting stuff. Get on the Discord if you're not already.
Yes.
A lot of cool Necrodisc.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some discussions about what's going on with the Necro bot, but we're working on it. Well, Inknun's working on it mostly to come up with something that's going to be really useful for the community. All right, so if anybody doesn't have any more sort of things to talk about, maybe we should jump right into Season 4. With the Season format, so I guess I'll just quickly, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll just go quickly over what the format is. Step in if I make any sort of missteps or anything like that. But the idea is
what we're thinking at this point, at least.
Right,
Sorry
because obviously we want to include you guys. So a commentator exhibition race, that'd be funny. And you hear both of us, like we'd commentate our own race. That'd be kind of funny. Anyway, so the format for this is we're thinking of doing the same style. So it'd be a Swiss style tournament, just like Season 3. So a massive pool of racers, as many racers as possible from the entire spectrum of skill levels, because I actually think it went pretty well. Obviously, there's some sides of it, like if you're not as strong and you kind of fall off towards the end of the season, but we looked into that and we thought about some ways in which we can fix that issue. And what we thought about, and ways that it's been discussed, and I think it was mainly Matt Kirby who had this idea, but I like it, is instead of running the 8 weeks like we did last time, we're going to run 6 weeks. So we're going to run a shorter season, so it won't take as long, so it won't seem like it drags out as long, because it was those last 2 weeks where it was really dragging out. And then we're going to try and run 2 races a week. Now, I don't think that's that daunting. So I was in the Lemon Party Invitational, which was an Isaac race tournament where they did do 2 races a week. But those races were 2 to 3 hours, which is a lot of time to devote a week. But the races here will likely be within like around an hour or so. So it'd be like 2 hours a week. So hopefully we can do that. You'd basically be able to schedule it at any time during the week with your opponent. So I think 2 a week would be really good. It'll also sort of make for a more dense schedule, which will be nice for all the viewers because they'll be able to see a lot more racing, especially if we have like similar numbers to the signups we had last season. So I think 2 a week for 6 weeks is a really nice way to sort of get a nice medium between all of those things. Then of course we'll have probably either a play-in tournament or the finals. Well, we'll definitely have the finals after the 6 weeks, but we might have a 2-week finals. I'm not totally sure on the specifics of that, but that's something we can discuss. No, sorry, Paratroopa. It's 12 matches throughout the season. 6 weeks, 2 matches per week. Which would be really kind of fun. I think it'd be really neat. The other thing is, instead of having 8 matches to determine your seeding, now we have 12 matches. So at the end of last season, we were talking about the idea of having more sampling of your skill. Because the whole idea of Swiss style, if people aren't aware of it, the way it works is you kind of get points based on how you do in a tournament or in a race. And those points slot you on a ladder. And then you play against people who are equal skill. But obviously at the very beginning, everyone's got 0 points. So equal skill in terms of points, everybody's the same, so it's going to be kind of a slaughter fest. But it gets better and better and better throughout. So we find that the more sampling you take of data of each racer, the closer you put them to their appropriate place in the ladder. And by the end of the season, we had some crazy good matchups. Like the races were so good, no matter where you fell in the spectrum, from the very bottom to the very top, because of the sampling, which was really great. So if we can have 12 races per season instead of 8, we're gonna have even better sampling. So I think that's a way to do it. The only question I have there is, those 2 races per week are going to be based off of, like the second race that week is still based off of your points at the end of last week. Do you guys know what I mean by that? Or did I lose Will and Iraq? Uh-oh.
No, I'm with you.
Okay. Yeah, so like that could be a potential concern, is that you don't get your seating revised until the end of the week. So that's not necessarily, it's not going to reflect quite as much as it did in Season 3, where every race changes your seating.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I agree with that as being a problem, because you can just pick up 6 points. But I don't think that is necessarily that big of a deal. I mean, if you pick up more points than you should have in 1 week, then you'll get knocked down the next.
Yeah.
To respond to what Blimp's saying, if people would really prefer 4 weeks, I am fine with it. I do think that starting people based on Season 3 is not good. I mean, you have really good racers like Inknon wasn't in season 3, right? Am I remembering correctly?
You are remembering correctly. Yes.
Presumably, you know, if you're really good, you'll catch up. But I don't really feel like that, you know, is going to be a fair system.
Yeah. I think
you know, unless it's just a seeding thing at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're that's a good question, Paratroopa. So will it reduce burnout or increase it? So Mac Kirby was the one who suggested that it will reduce burnout. I tend to agree. I think it's going to kind of make it, since it's the actual timeline is reduced, you're not going to have those middle weeks where it's just kind of like in the middle of the season just dragging on, because once you hit the 3rd week, you're already on the way down to the finals. Like, I feel like it's a little bit more manageable. People are saying 4 weeks. I prefer 6 weeks personally, because I think 4 weeks is just super quick. Like, it'll seem like it's not even really much of a thing. I don't know, because part of it is we try to make this like our big event, so we like to have it have a substantial amount to it. But I don't know. I mean, lots to think about, which is good. I'm glad that you guys are asking these questions.
I mean, if 6 weeks is going to discourage people from entering, that's, you know, absolutely what we don't want.
Yes.
I think kind of similar goal to season 3 is we want to get the most people in as possible, while having the best tournament as possible. So I don't know if, and I don't know if there are people who just wouldn't do it if it's 6 weeks, or who wouldn't do it if it's only 4 weeks.
That's true. Yeah, it also
That
sort
would
of
be a
depends
question,
on
but-
the goals of this, right? Like, because from our perspective, we want to be as inclusive as possible. We want to have it be as fair as possible and as interesting as possible. So fair to the racers, interesting to the viewers. So there's a lot of angles that we try to take. So it's important to keep that in mind. So it's good to get the racer's perspective if you think that if like 6 weeks might be worth burning out. I think like 4 weeks is eight weeks worth. That's true, but it does go back to that thing I was saying earlier, that your seeding is only going to be based off of 4 weeks of sampling, so it's maybe not going to be quite as good. I don't mind the 6 week thing because it's 2 less than last season, whereas 4 weeks is like half the length of last season in terms of it. So I don't know. I feel like if people are feeling like 6 weeks is too big of a commitment, I don't know. We're gonna do it like February, or that's the hope, which is kind of one of those months where there's just nothing going on. So we thought that it wouldn't be too big of a deal, especially considering we did do 8 weeks and had a pretty good turnout of racers and very minimal dropout. So I don't feel too bad about that. I'm not sure. Yeah, would 4 weeks discourage people? That's also a really interesting idea.
Yeah, I think part of where 6 weeks came from, I think, is that I felt like in last season, that's kind of about where it seemed like interest was waning a bit, and, you know, people weren't maybe practicing as much, and, you know, you could kind of tell the burnout was there. That said, it was only 1 race a week then, and I don't know how much people were filling it with practice time, you know, whether it would be the same anyway. I don't think somebody's probably not going to double their practice time because there are 2 races in a week. They're going to practice as much time as they feel like they can put toward it, and as much as they want to. So I don't know if that's better or worse. It's probably going to be, you know, for if somebody's not practicing, it's obviously going to be a lot worse for them. But
right. I also think that I'm going to agree with what Para was saying, in that the 8 weeks, we saw some dramatic improvements in the players over those 8 weeks, which was really cool. And it's enough time to really let people put in the practice. Like, we also want these seasons to be motivating for people to get better and better at the game. And if it's too short, then it'll just be like a one Friday. Like, it'll just come off like just a one-off tournament. Where we want it to really be a season, where there's like an arc to the people who play in it. It's sort of like sports ball a little bit, where teams can have like peaks and valleys throughout their season. That'd be nice. And I think that's that's kind of what we're going for. At least that's what I'm going for a little bit here, where I want it to be like, to sort of reflect that kind of competitive style, where you can actually work on your season and improve, Because having a bad first week isn't going to really cost you. But it would cost you if it's only 4 weeks, I think. But in a 6 week, I mean, it costs you maybe more in a 6 week, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it'll... Than an 8, I mean. Although 8 was only 1 race a week. So, I don't know. Lots to talk about. Lots to think about. But I agree about the practice thing that Pants said originally. I don't think that people are going to practice too much more if it's twice a week. Because probably a big chunk of the burnout was people trying to like practice as much as possible, and 8 weeks is a long time potentially to practice. We definitely noticed there was some burnout towards the end of the season, and part of the reason why we sort of like took some breaks and stuff at the end of 2015 before coming back. So I think that I feel like I'm pulling hard for 6 weeks. I'm not sure if everyone's like super on board with 4 weeks. But let's just get a quick poll from chat. If you guys can just say what you prefer, whether it be 6 or 4 weeks, that'd be good for us to know. But obviously, because of Twitch delay, we'll probably just continue talking about things, but we'll see it. So please do post that.
I'll throw up a straw poll.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, Will. Yeah, so Will's going to put a straw poll in there. So don't bother writing it in chat. We can just check it in there, which is good. So one thing I did want to bring up, Squega mentioned earlier the community casts. That was actually probably my favorite part of Season 3. I thought it was the best thing ever. So we are super duper going to keep that in. I hope to continue to have people doing it. I thought it was really neat. For us, it was a great way for us to find new co-hosts. It's a great opportunity for people to grow their channels and show themselves as hosts. It also allows for a strengthening of the community itself, which is one of my biggest like reasons I'm on Twitch, is I just like the Necrodancer community to grow. So absolutely, I think it's like the best thing ever, and we're gonna try and do a couple things to make it we're gonna try to do a couple things to encourage the community, I think. We're gonna try and have a working calendar that promotes whoever is going to be hosting the streams, and we're going to make it in one place that's easy to get at. We're gonna do all of those things. So if anybody does have any opinions on the community stuff, please feel free to share those.
I think we might have a bot in our poll. This maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. What makes you think that?
There's currently 293 votes for 6 weeks.
Oh, the memes.
It did seem like most people in chat preferred the 6 weeks, but I'm glad somebody prefers it that strongly.
Brad, just so you know, I think your whispers are going to show up on my stream. Not that he's whispering anything too bad, but yeah, whispers, I think, we'll find out. They might not. I'm waiting for the Twitch delay. Oh, they don't. Okay, well, anyways, I can respond to him here because those are good questions. Yeah, doing these sorts of pre-run Q&A stuff on a different streaming service where there's no Twitch delay, or there's no Twitch at all. It's a good idea, but I think like I like to keep it on my channel just because this is where people know to go for CoNDOR stuff. So, but that is a really good idea. So, anyways, I guess 6 weeks wins.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. Anyways,
All right.
I think 6 weeks was largely what people were voting for, anyways. But so I missed the stuff about the community. Find a way to be more involved in community. All right. So what we maybe need is a way for people to sign up a little easier, perhaps, for hosting community, and maybe make it a little easier for people to grab the resources and all that kind of stuff. So I think, actually, I think this is a really nice segue into what I was talking about. I think it was with Arachnus, without you being around, Will, but the idea of our CoNDOR for Discord and how it's going to work.
Oh yeah, no, Arachnus was telling me about it earlier. It sounds great.
Yeah.
Assuming it's not too much work for Inknun.
Right. Or us in the background,
Or-
because
yeah.
I'll sort of preface it so that the chat hears as well. This is sort of the idea. So since we've largely moved over to Discord, I actually killed the CoNDOR TeamSpeak. Rest in peace, CoNDOR TeamSpeak. You did well. But the idea is we're going to have a separate CoNDOR thing that all the racers will have access to. We might be able to make it like a public thing where there's like a season 4 public discussion, but they don't have access to the rest of it. We might do something like that so that if people want to talk season 4 that aren't in it, that'd be fine. But we're going to have specific sections for just the racers so that the racers can discuss. Then what we're going to do is have an individual text channel within CoNDOR for each matchup that week. The idea is you'll go to your text channel and you'll talk with your opponent for the week. So once your matchup is made, that'll be in there. You go in there, you talk with and it's an easy place to discuss what your schedule looks like and schedule a race. Once the race is scheduled, you can ping one of us and we'll put it into the schedule and be very simple. Then you can then use that channel for your actual race room using our Necro bot, which worked very well today. You'll be able to set up the seed that you're going to play against and potentially record. Hopefully we're something along the lines of recording the race to our database. If not, then at least you'll be able to ping us again to tell us that you've recorded the race. We'll put it into the database and we'll do all the seeding and stuff for the following week there and close the channel. Then we'll be able to see how many channels are remaining, so who still has to compete that week and all that kind of stuff. So I think it'll be a really nice way to organize everything, because Discord is very accessible, which I love, because for some people, like, Discord kind of bugs you a little, which is good, whereas, like, the forums didn't quite bug people, and so we had to go around and bug people, which kind of got annoying sometimes. So I think it's gonna work nicely, and we can ping at people, and we can, so I think it's just gonna make things go that much smoother. Plus, there will be voice channels available. Plus, we'll make it so that all the resources are there. If people want to do community stuff, we'll have a separate text channel that people won't be able to edit that has all the rules. So everything will be there, and I think it's gonna just be so nice and neat and easy to use. I think it's gonna be like amazing, like really good. So I don't know if I missed anything, but I think we just lost Will. Maybe I offended him. You're still there, right, Arachnus?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
I don't know where Will went.
You sort of dropped off there. Chat vote on the streamers as well as a good idea. Pull like midstream with peak viewership going on. Chat's fave, shoutcasters, and help highly voted identify issues and improve. Sorry, like have chat vote on, you're gonna have to clarify a little bit, Brad, but have people vote on like who they think is gonna win the race, or do you mean vote on like the commentators and which ones they like? So I'm a little afraid of that because there's like, this guy sucks. You don't want to have that. That's sort of negative towards the community. I don't know. That's maybe my Canadianism shining through or something. I don't know. What's up, Lead Mango? How's it going? Can we sign up for Season 4 yet? Yeah, that's not quite set up because we do want to make sure we have all the rules solidified. And trust me, there is a lot of stewing over the rules to try, and we always miss something, but we try to come up, as Arachnus knows, come up with this, like, all the rules that could possibly go wrong, and we try very hard not to change anything mid-season, but sometimes that's how it goes. But thank you, Brad. Yeah, I think it's going to be really good for Discord. I think that's going to be amazing. So we will have a separate Discord than the standard Crypto the Necrodancer Discord, partly so that we can like control it, but also because that's a good place for Necrodancer community. But I think this one's gonna be like Season 4 and everything Season 4 related, which is good because it's not like it costs money to have extra channels or anything like that. So. Oh, that's awesome, Ron. Yeah, that's good. I'm really stoked on people. It seems like people really want to be part of the community, which I'm really cool with as well. So even if you don't feel like racing, you can be a huge part of Season 4 for us if you want to do community, because we encourage as many streams being cast as possible. The only thing is we're going to try to keep it so that only one person streams each race, but, you know. Okay, Will's internet went rip, but he'll be back in a split sec. So, oh, are you watching it, Brad? It is so good. Yeah, it's something that we're interested in trying. I don't know about a relay as much as like in the way that that's done as a relay, but the actual the content behind it of having these pre-made dungeons that like we'd test out to say like, oh yeah, this is going to be perfect, and doing that kind of thing is cool. Very cool. Yeah, I agree. Tylon and Para probably not a good call for sure. And yeah, there will be plenty of matches. I hope we get a similar sign-up rate. We had about 50 people in the tournament last season, and for me, I think hitting 50 again would be good. I'm not gonna say like let's have 100 or whatever. Also, that'd be a nightmare for us organizing it. But I think like another 50 or so would be really cool. Can we have man levels of Zoom? Dan's game at CoNDOR Zoom. That's a very good question. And Will is back. Welcome back, Will.
Hey.
Whoa, that was loud. That's okay. I'll fix that.
Sorry. Internet totally died.
I have you slightly boosted in my Discord. All right. So maybe we should discuss that in terms of like we can get a little bit into the nitty gritty of rules because this is kind of the place to do it. So what do you think?
The only thing before we go into specifics, did we discuss like the start date?
We didn't. Okay, let's do that first, and we'll just keep in mind we do want to talk about some of the rule specifics. So in terms of start date, I believe we said February 14th.
Yeah, that was the one that we all kind of discussed.
Right. So
that would just be the
14th,
start of the week, like
yes.
when matches got posted. Obviously, like we wouldn't, we would still do Friday casts.
Yeah. Right. So I think we didn't really say straight up, but yeah, we'll probably keep the same format where we'll start on Sunday. You'll be given your matchups. If you're available for the Friday, we'll pick a couple people to showcase. We'll have our season showcase again on Friday nights. We'll likely be including more Saturday showcases because of CoNDOR and Mac Kirby. So we might even have 2 showcases a week, or at least we'll see if we can have 2 showcases a week. We might do that. It depends on how many races we actually have a week as well, how many we're going to fit in each one. But we definitely want to encourage our European, because I think there's almost more European racers than North American, or at least it's like close to parity. There's a lot. So we want to encourage that as well. We don't want to punish them and not let them, be part of the showcase. So we want to include the showcases on Saturdays as well. But we will be doing that, and then basically have your races done by the Saturday so that we have the Sunday to change over for the next week. That's the plan. And then, yeah, so we were talking about starting on February 14th, which is, of course, Valentine's Day, but we don't care, because racing.
Yep.
But no, it's not the actual day you have to race, it's just the start of that week. And then it will run for 6 weeks, the last week being the 20th to the 27th of March. And then the finals would be the 1st, 2nd, and 8th, 9th of April, I think. Which would be, I think Easter's around that time.
No, Easter would be during the last week of March, but you're not required, like you have the entire week to schedule a match, so you're not required to, if you have plans for Easter or anything like that, you're never like required to race on a specific day.
Right. Okay. Yeah. There you go. So that's that's totally fine. March. Wait a minute. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. The 28th. Okay. Yeah. So that's really good.
Then the only other like general thing I was going to say was I don't think we mentioned like we're really leaning towards doing seeded races this season.
Yes, let's open up the seeded discussion. Absolutely.
It'll help a lot with like the end game, like the Necrodancer race, and that way somebody doesn't get a seed where like one person has 10 bombs and the other one has none, or one person has phasing and the other person doesn't. So, and hopefully with the bot, which is really easy to use, that will generate seeds for us. So it should take a lot of the work and confusion out of it.
That's right. Yeah. So the bot's designed so that we can have like the seeds are decided on for you and written down so that we would see it. in case there's any monkey business, we could figure that out. So, yeah, I would definitely. I like seeded, but I don't know. I guess we'll see what. If there's a couple people I think who don't like seeded, but I think it's kind of the way to go. Most of the arguments against seeded have largely been shown to not be that helpful. So like, like screen watching, that's just not a thing because this race is too fast for you to for it to really matter. And even if it does matter, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. So that's fine. And then what was the other one? Well, dying, yeah, you have to run the seed over again, but since the race is short, it's not as painful, really. So you just kind of know where you're going. So there's a rubber banding mechanic. So I think it's good in that sense too. So
I think it's worth.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I had nothing. I was just rambling. Go for it.
I think it's worth. I think I was really resistant to it for a long time, and I think other people probably are too, especially if they come from other roguelikes that don't do seeded and.
Sorry, just
everybody.
I can't see you turn your volume down, and you are real loud. Do you mind turning it down?
Real loud.
It's not working. I can't turn you down.
I'll sit back. Does that help? Am I quieter?
Yeah, somewhat. It's good.
All right.
Here, actually, I got it in my Windows. No, it's fine. Okay, just talk normally. I got it in Windows.
Okay. So, there's a lot of resistance to it, but it is worth pointing out, I think, that both CoNDOR next week and Conduit at the end of January are going to be seeded. So, I think if we've done a few seeded already, including tonight, and I think it's went well, but, if there is anything else that we're worried about, we'll have 2 more kind of test runs before Season 4. So if they don't go well, then it can change. But I think that we'd need like a pretty convincing argument about it, or a pretty overwhelming majority that doesn't like seeded.
Yeah, I think that seeded is, and the other thing is, it's like if we do seeded for the season, and it's good but not as good, we don't have to always do seeded in the future. Like, I think it's not the end of the world, right? Like, I guess it's good to try and pick the best thing possible, obviously, and that's what we're trying to do here. But I really do think there's a lot more merits to seeded than not. And it's sort of a weird thing. I think there was a bit of a just kind of being a stick in the mud with a lot of the times. The amount of times that we've said seeded is bad, because we'd be running the tournament doing unseeded, and then someone would come in and be like, why aren't you doing seeded? And the amount of times that happened is like a billion. So we'd be like, well, because of this and because of this, without really actually considering it. But now that we've considered it, it's like, you know what? It actually is probably better. So I don't know. I think it's good. And also, yeah, like you get the Swiss style, so it puts them closer together, so it's more of a skill test, which is really cool. And what we've started to find is people will complain about the differences in RNG in seeded, right? Like, what if somebody doesn't dig one wall and then notice this carry item that carries you through the whole thing? And it's like, well, you didn't do a thing, but at least you had the chance to, I guess, instead of it's random seeds and this person's seed was amazing and this person's seed was terrible. So I think, yeah, you can't really let that be an argument necessarily.
I kind of, Blimp's point is interesting to me, because I think that was almost one of the reasons for unseeded for a while, in that, like, races where somebody keeps up on a total skeleton build versus somebody who gets carried and it's a close race, like, those are amazing. Right. But I think that's so much rarer compared to somebody gets really good stuff and somebody gets really crappy stuff, and there's a huge, time difference in what the runs would be.
Right. Yeah. I think we end up seeing a lot closer races. The only problem is, I guess we did see tonight that when there were deaths, it ended up not being that close. And you kind of, when you die, sometimes you kind of gotta rely on getting a good seed to catch up, maybe? I don't know. So I don't know if the rubber banding is strong enough, because you're still running the same seed, and all the stuff that they're running through, you're going to have to eventually run through, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Something to think about. It's sort of a counter argument for seeded, but I still think that seeded, because deaths have become less of an issue, I think that seeded is better. And I think it's better for the top end. which, I mean, I'm one to sort of be like, everybody, but I get it, like, for our, like, top-tier racers, it can be really frustrating when seed RNG is the reason you lose. And that was a factor in last season. So I think that that's a good reason to go with seeded as well.
I think you get a better measure of which person is the better racer, and that has positives and negatives. You know, you don't have. I think you're less likely to have random upsets, which can be fun, but then you're less likely to have random upsets. So the people who, you know, have more skill are ending up at the top.
Right. And I think that's actually a good point there from Fubzo, that we don't have to run the whole thing seeded. You could just run the finals seeded. But that seems slightly disingenuous in that it's like, it's kind of, not to talk about sports ball again, but there was a big controversy about adding shootouts to the end of hockey because it's almost a completely different game that you're playing to determine the end of the game. If you get to like the overtime and then do the shootouts, you're not actually playing hockey anymore. You're just, your top stars are the ones who are shooting on the nets. So you could argue that if you, in the finals, if you change the format too much, it kind of doesn't make any sense. So you want to kind of keep it consistent throughout. So I still think that, yeah, you don't want to have like two separate tournaments. You kind of want to, like, you have one tournament to determine who's going to be in the second tournament. I think it's better if it's sort of consistent throughout. So I think it's like, I don't know, is there anybody, I haven't noticed anybody in chat who's like super anti-seeded. But I feel like it's kind of like seeded's good, or I don't know, we'll see. And I think that's good enough for me to try it and see how it goes. I can't imagine, especially considering our testing of the past couple weeks and the next couple weeks, I can't imagine that we're going to be too surprised by how it goes. And I think it's going to be good. So, at least that's my opinion. I don't know. But if anybody has any other opinions on that one, that'd be worth bringing up. CoNDOR Zoom. I think that's something we should discuss, but I really don't know if it's something we can really budge on. The only real budging, I think, might be, do we maintain CoNDOR Zoom if you're not on cast? Or if you're not in the showcase? And I'm not sure about that. That's a hard one for me to answer, because that's sort of a more racer side. From a viewer side, obviously, it's better to be CoNDOR Zoom because it's easier to watch. But, I mean, the Coda AGDQ thing was certainly not CoNDOR Zoom, and there was a lot of people watching that. I don't know. It might be fine, but I feel like for our showcases, I'd like to keep it CoNDOR Zoom for sure. Paratrooper really prefers it. I know that, and for the consistency thing, yeah. Because if somebody ends up being on cast more often, you could argue they might be at a disadvantage if we only allow it for on cast. Or only demand it on cast.
I think that, like, the argument that you can make, and I don't know if I have a good response for it other than, like, it's annoying to adjust, would be that, like, you know, expanding Zoom by, like, one tile in each direction is like a big quality of life improvement, and that you can see deep blue spawns easier, you can see dead ringer position before you get into the room, you know, it's just like all of these things are like one tile off screen, like all the time on CoNDOR Zoom. And it's hard to say that one tile makes a huge amount of difference, you know, in terms of viewability. That said, like, this is what everybody's practiced with for a year, and this is what, you know, like, everybody knows how to set up, and, like, you know, there are costs to switching.
Right.
That said, like, it's hard to make a principled distinction to me. Like, you know, if we were considering this like totally afresh, I think that I would be much more inclined to say, yeah, let's push it out a tile. But at this point, it's a little difficult, both on our racer end and on our end as organizers and referees, you know, to do that.
Right. The only thing is, so I totally agree. I think, for me, I think CoNDOR Zoom should just be across the board regardless, whether you're on community, whether you're on cast, like the showcase, or if you're not on community, you're just on another race, an off-cast race that's not being community casted, I think it needs to be the same, just for the sake of consistency. The problem is, how do we enforce it? What if somebody doesn't follow the rule? And this is sort of the issue we have been having with, like, what do you do about it? Does it make the race? Like, do we have to put the onus on the other racer to call them out on it? And in which case, does that mean that people might try to get away with it? How do you even, I don't know. I mean, it's the internet, right? People do things like this. So, hey, what's up, Mishka? How's it going? So, I don't know. I think, like, for me, I would love to definitely keep on-cast, like, showcase, and community to be CoNDOR, because I also, for this season, I want community casts to be as high a quality as possible, because I really want to promote them. So I don't want to have it where it's like way zoomed out, because I think it was, the koala up there said that you don't want to make the zooms different to make the community cast worse, and I totally agree with that. So I mean, that's mainly my sort of situation there. I think maybe we agree, but I'm not sure if all of chat does. Although maybe we don't. I don't want to assume. How do you feel, Arachnus? Not to put you on the spot. Maybe I did, but that's okay. So yeah, I don't know if like you might find a situation where both racers want to zoom out, but I don't know if it's something we should give into. I think it's dangerous territory. Like, it sort of gets away from kind of, I don't know. Yeah, like, I don't know. Arachnus might be muted, I'm not sure. Are you there, Arachnus? Or Will? Or can anybody hear me?
No, I'm hearing you. I'm just responding to something in chat real quick.
Okay, that's fine. We might have lost Arachnus, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's up.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up with chat here. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, this is part of the reason, just to give you guys an inside scoop, and just also to keep talking a bit, so that, like, you can keep the ball rolling. What tends to happen behind closed doors, which I don't even like the term of, but when Arachnus, Will, and myself discuss, is oftentimes we have sort of a meeting of perspectives, where I tend to take the perspective of the viewer, and Will and Arachnus tend to take the perspective of the racer. And I think that's part of what makes this work, is that we are able to sort of take both perspectives and to allow both perspectives to have equal footing. So obviously I'm going to come from the perspective of the viewer in this case. I don't have to, but I think that I just naturally do, because I want to put on the best show possible. And so that's why I'm taking the perspective of, let's keep the CoNDOR zoom because it looks nice for everybody. But I've come to understand that obviously my opinion isn't the be-all, end-all at all. And I think that it's important to take in everybody else's perspective. And so I can certainly appreciate coming at this also from the perspective of a racer. Now, I do think that most racers have practiced with CoNDOR Zoom and played with CoNDOR Zoom a lot. And obviously this is not speedrunning, this is racing, so it's different. So I don't hate keeping it that way, but I have limitations to my perspective is what I'm trying to get at. So I think it's good to discuss. I'm not totally sure. I know that for some people they might find it's a bigger disadvantage for them to not be able to do it that way. To not be able to have the further out zoom. But arguably it would have the same disadvantage for everybody. But I'm not totally sure. What's up, Dragon? Yes, we are talking about CoNDOR Zoom. This is, if you are just joining us, we are doing the Season 4 Town Hall, where we are trying to hammer out all the Season 4 sort of talking points. So far, just as a quick recap, while we're chat's sort of talking about Zoom stuff, just as a quick recap, so we're talking Season 4, we're thinking it's going to be a 6-week tournament, 2 races per week. We're going to do it the Swiss style like last time. We're going to hope for, it's going to be the same sort of cast a wide net for racers. Whoever wants to be part of it, get in there, join up. We also want to encourage people who maybe even new at the game, go for it. There's really not much harm to anybody for you to join. So we encourage it. If you feel like you're Conduit level or CoNDOR level, you should get in there. Hey, it's Mac. Shouldn't you be in bed, Mac? Definitely should be. But anyways, so we're going to be doing probably 6 weeks. It's probably going to start February 14th, Valentine's Day. So maybe we'll make some posters about that. And it's going to run for 6 weeks. Then we'll have 2 weeks of finals probably afterwards. We're talking about going totally seeded, which I like. We're also transitioning everything into Discord, which I also like. I think Discord is going to be amazing for CoNDOR. So I think that's the majority of what we talked about. Obviously, I think there's almost no discussion about this, but we're going to keep with Cadence. Unless anybody thinks differently, but I'm pretty sure Cadence, we have to just kind of stick with it. I think there's been like murmurs about, oh, maybe Melody, oh, maybe Bard, but we gotta go Cadence. It just makes the most sense. There's also every season or every tournament we discuss, usually there's like, should we stop before Necrodancer? But I think not. I think keep Necrodancer in it because it adds an interesting element, and people know to get bombs, and because it's seeded, the bombs are seeded too. So if you don't get bombs, your opponent's gonna not get bombs as well, unless it means you just didn't look around. Let's go with Monk or Bolt. Yeah, no, obviously not. So yeah, I think that's largely the catch up. Yeah, obviously we want to run other characters for things. I am really stoked on doing a another relay at some point. I would love that. Bard League is interesting, but I feel like we're not through with Cadence yet. I think Cadence is definitely something that needs to keep happening, so. Bolt CoNDOR, it's true. Bolt is definitely getting to a point where we can race a CoNDOR, a competitive CoNDOR. The biggest issue was there wasn't enough bolters for the longest time, but I think it's getting there. I know I'm actually improving a lot with Bolt, getting a lot more consistent. I used to believe that it was not a thing you could do, but it's getting there, which is kind of cool. Why not both? Both Bard and Cadence? Yeah, I don't know if we'd wear people out a little too much there, but yeah, relay format it's not only hard to be in, it's hard to manage. We have to figure that one out. There's a lot more discussion that still needs to happen about relay. Multi-character season. Yeah, I like that idea, but I feel like it will dramatically drop people joining. I think Cadence is a nice, fair, like, cast a wide net sort of thing. If we go
I don't want to race Monk.
Yeah, you racing Monk, racing Arya. Not so good. Bard pre-race fun times with the commentators. We could do that. We also we kind of ditched the idea of the halftime show. It seemed like a better idea in practice, but I think the nights just always kind of ended up going long, so we never ended up doing it. But
yeah,
we'll see.
We were behind every single time when we came to halftime, and it was like, we can do it and get done at 1 in the morning, or we can skip it and get done reasonably on time.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we'll probably stick with that. Like, maybe we'll have like a fun night or something. I don't know, but I mean, we did a couple, but I think we showed the coda completion when it happened and that kind of stuff, which was kind of neat. But yeah, I think multiple characters, you'd have to make it like Bard, Melody, Cadence, and that's it. Maybe Dorian, Dove, maybe. I don't know, but dancing cheerleaders. No, we did have the idea of having just like wacky races, like that old television show. No, but having like weird races at a halftime, like leprechaun hunters and just weird stuff, just to sort of change it up a little bit. But it just didn't. It was hard to get people to do it, and it was also hard to run because it would have made us go way over time. So.
I think earlier you wanted someone to remind you to talk about the Miss Week thing.
The Miss
As
Week
we train.
Like,
yeah, the policy on.
Yeah, so that's a big deal. Can I get you to chat about that? I feel like you're a little closer to it than me.
Yeah, sure. So last season, what we had as a policy was up until, gosh, I think the end of week 6 or something, you could miss a week, and then, you wouldn't get points, and we would like reschedule it in week 7 or something. And it ended up being a problem because, especially if you missed an early week, You ended up kind of with deflated points, which is an advantage in terms of the matchups you get. You're getting people who got the same amount of points you did in 3 weeks as you did in 2 weeks. And then not only that, but you would get the points from the week you missed at the end, and the people that you got matched up with were just the other people who missed weeks. So it wasn't, although we actually ended up changing that, but I think there was a lot of resistance to that rule, and I think rightfully so. It was one that Arachnus and I spent like 10 hours one day just kind of working out like every possibility of obscure situation that could come up, and so we kind of took our best stab at it. But this was like 2 days before the tournament started, so that one, like stuff that was more kind of on the nitty-gritty side of things didn't necessarily get read and pointed out until it came up, and so I think for this season, we definitely want to get those kind of rules right, because when they do go wrong, they can have a big effect.
Yes.
And I think that rule in particular did have a big effect last year, especially kind of on the margins of who got into the Tournament of Champions, which is, of course, who gets money. So I think, the three of us kind of talked about it the other day, and the rule that we were leaning toward was just no missed weeks at all. And I wanted to see what racers thought of it. There were a few other solutions that people had, like giving somebody virtual points for a week. So like you would get matched up for the rest of the season as if you had played that week and won all your races that week, or won some like expected value amount of your races, and then that could like decay over the season so that you would not just be getting screwed by it.
Right.
I think that would be kind of the other option, but I don't know. It is a shorter season, so missing a week is just going to be a bigger deal. Yeah, I mean, it's 2 races that you have to make up.
Yeah, I think that you...
Mac, were you there for that?
I don't think Mac was there for that, so just ignore him.
It was the 3 of us talking. It's not that only 3 of us do CoNDOR. There's a lot of people who are helping out on the back end.
Yeah, it's not the 4 of us either, Mac.
It's just the 3 of us talking that night. Gosh, make me feel bad.
Good times. But yeah, I guess there's a few options. It's obviously the give 0 points doesn't work because of the problems that were brought up last season. Giving max points would have the greatest detriment to the person who missed, because they would be having harder matchups for the rest of the season. And then obviously if they do make up those games eventually, you could give them those points or just drop the points at the end of the season. The other option is to take the average of what they get every season, every week, and then give them that, which would arguably keep them in the same place, but I don't really know about that, and especially over 6 weeks, I don't know if that would be something that would materialize quick enough. So I guess, the options are you just can't, or you get, but I guess what happens if you miss it? You're out of the tournament? I don't know if that's, seems pretty harsh.
I don't know. The making things up right away that Inkpen's talking about, I forgot we did talk about that at the end of last season. I think it could be workable, but that means you get to do 4 races in a week, and I don't know, that might have some issues too, because
that'll
still
impact all the other matchups, right?
That's kind of whatever, because people, unless it creates an uneven amount, which I don't think it would, because you'd be making up 2. The thing that is funky about it is that you would still be racing the people at your points total. I think you'd have to combine it with virtual points. Or at least say like 2 of your races that you get have virtual points or something. It's just... I think it could work. I think there is a level of complexity that we need to think about whether we want to have a rule like that, where we say, if you miss a week, next week you have to make them up, and 2 of your matches are going to be at your previous points level, and 2 of them are going to be at your previous points level plus 6. maybe it's not that bad. Maybe we just say don't miss weeks because it's.
Yeah, but I think that Inkman's right. If we do have 50 racers, people will miss weeks, and if we come up at the beginning with this rule, people will not join because of this rule. Like, it's a pretty harsh sounding rule if we're just like, don't miss weeks. So I think we do need some sort of alternative. Otherwise, I don't know if it's gonna. I think it's gonna have a real detriment to the season.
I agree with that.
But I do think that, like what Fubzo's saying, I think if you're gonna have a tournament, January, February, March is like the best time because that part of the year sucks and nothing happens then. So it's a good time to have it.
There's spring break on the end of it, which could be problematic for some people. But the problem is that, like, even with the make it up next week rule, you're gonna not have any weeks to make it up. I guess if you know in advance, maybe you could say, okay, I'll do my makeup races before the week before.
Right.
I don't know if we're okay with that, but that could be a possibility.
Though. Like, if you do them before, then we'd be able to calculate it and you'd kind of just maybe parse the week in half and say, okay, well then have this week's races done by Wednesday, and then.
No, you can't do that because you have to make everybody else's.
Oh,
you have to make everybody else's.
Yeah.
So I think you'd have to use virtual points with that too, but that's fine.
I guess virtual points. It's a detriment to miss a week, but it's not severe, and it might not even really matter. Right. And of course, we just have to make it clear that you lose those points. Now, I guess it's like when do you lose them?
Virtual points are. Just to explain it in case anybody has no idea what we're talking about, since we're just kind of saying this phrase, virtual points, without explaining it.
Well, I think I don't totally get it either, so please do explain.
So the idea with virtual points, right? So in the Swiss style tournament, you're picking up points throughout, like real points throughout the season by winning matches. So, if you win 2-1 over one guy and 3-0 on another guy, then you have 5 points. And so the matchups are then generated by how many points you have. So if you have 5 points, you're going to face other people at 5 points. The idea with virtual points is that, your 5-point guy would be getting matched up with people with 8 points. Because the idea would be in that week that you missed, you would have gotten something probably. And we should tend toward giving you a harder matchup for missing weeks rather than giving you an easier matchup. Yes, you would lose the virtual points when you play the reschedule. The virtual points are never actually in the point system. You just add it in for the purposes of making matchups and don't ever enter it into the actual score sheet. So that's kind of what the concept of virtual points is, and kind of why I was worried about complexity a little bit, but it's complexity that we have to handle and not necessarily that you guys have to touch, other than just to know that, if you miss a week, maybe familiarize yourself with the rule a bit, but otherwise you can just, leave it to us and don't be surprised then if, hey, why am I racing Jack this week when I only, had one victory or something, right? Like, that's how the rule works. So yep.
Yeah, and just to clarify with blind umpire, it sounds like that would be harsh if you made them forfeit their points, but that actually is what happened last season, and it's actually better. Because what ends up happening is you get lower seeded for the remainder of the tournament, so you end up playing easier players, potentially.
No, I think blind is saying something different, which is that you would match them up anyway, and then you just give the 3 points to the opponent.
Oh.
Which would be a possibility, but then you have a problem of inflating the other person, and,
Right. And I was actually going to say, I don't know if we've discussed what happened, because there's 2 people in that matchup. What happens to the other person? When you're giving virtual points to one guy, what happens to the other guy in that matchup? Because
they still get the same amount. I mean, you just treat it like normal, but like you're trying to simulate what the matchups would be like if the week hadn't been missed. You know what I mean?
So then the person who didn't go on vacation gets virtual points, or no?
No, they don't.
So
they play the match and they get whatever points from playing the person.
But they don't play the person because they're on vacation.
For the next week. So like you're just removing them from the matchmaking the week that they miss, right? And then the next week they get thrown in 4 times. So they're going to have 4 different people that they race. You know what I'm saying?
So they get the benefit, not the virtual points? Is that what I'm getting? Like they don't get any, like they get seated lower?
Wait, so sorry.
Okay, so let's pretend, let's use actual names. Let's say that me and Arachnus are going to race in week 2. I'm going on vacation. So I go to vacation, I get the 3 virtual points, which is going to seed me higher. So next week I'm going to have harder opponents, and I'm going to try to make my makeup race against Arachnus at that point, in which case I can either I lose the virtual points.
Wait a sec. You don't have okay, so if you're missing week 2, you and Arachnus don't have a matchup week 2. We'd just make the matchups with all of the other people who aren't missing the week.
I understand.
And then in the next week we treat you like you're 2 people.
Okay, that makes perfect sense now. Yep, I totally get that. For some reason I thought the matchup was made already. That was just not thinking. That's not how it worked last season either. I don't anyway. But there are the buys still, yes? It's something we just have to deal with.
Yeah, and I think the buy rule was fine last season. I don't think it actually affected anything ultimately.
What was it? It was low racer gets 3
You gave
points?
the person up. Yeah, you gave if we had an uneven number of racers in a given week, then we would give the bottom person 3 points. If there was some other rule for figuring out if multiple people were tied at the bottom, but I don't remember it. But that one I think was completely impactless. And the only harm was a couple people didn't get to race quite as often, but I don't think anybody had buys that ended up using those points in any significant way. They didn't get into the play-in tournament with them or anything like that. So
but I think remember though that then in those rule sets you'll buy 2 races based on the way we're doing 2 races per week.
Yeah, I think we just give it to the bottom 2 then. Okay. That makes more sense to me.
Like they get 1 race instead of 2 races?
Yep.
Or instead of no races?
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's good. So again, just want to point out how complex this can be sometimes, guys. So I'm really glad you guys are hanging out with us here. Season 4, coming up with these seasons, it can be a very complicated process, which is, again, why I'm happy to have a lawyer on the team. Will is very good at figuring out all of the various potential issues you could run into, which is good. So, but hey everybody, what's up, Mr. Butts? How's it going? Okay, so yeah, I think that's good. I like it. I'm convinced by the virtual point thing. I think that makes the most sense. And so I pull for that. I think that's good.
Yeah, I kind of talked myself into it while explaining, kind of what was being discussed in chat. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, nice, awesome. All right, was there anything else we wanted to discuss in terms of season 4?
Let me check real quick.
I'm just looking through it now. It seems good. I think everybody's pretty much on board with Discord. If there's anybody who's planning on racing but doesn't like Discord for some reason, let us know and we'll see what we can do. But I'm pretty sure we're going to be running the next season on Discord. We're going to have a separate channel for the racers. All of the scheduling is going to happen within the Discord channel. So there'll be little text channels for each pairing. And that's where you'll be doing your scheduling. That's where you'll be figuring out your seed. We'll have a bot to do that for you. So you just have to type in a command. And that's where you'll be basically recording your results. And then we will concatenate all that information into a stat sheet so that we can then pick this matchups for the next week. I think a lot of this stuff is going to end up being automated, which is really nice. At least I hope so. So we'll have to see how that goes, but really cool. That's a good idea, Will. Maybe 3 isn't exactly the appropriate number.
Yeah, I think we can look at it and we can, I guess technically the average number of points for anybody in the season is going to be 1.5 from each matchup, right? But, 2, it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, 3 might be too harsh of a penalty, but I mean, that's really what it winds up being. Like, how harsh do we want to be? Like, we could give 6, but then that's really harsh, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's just like the penalty for doing it. And I don't think we should make it that harsh of a penalty because we don't want to deter people from joining the tournament. We also don't, we don't want to penalize people for having a life. So,
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
I think that's it.
It's a good point.
There were a few other rule changes from season 3, but they're not huge, and they're also not really super up for debate. But I can just run through them real quick.
That'd be great.
One is going to be that if you drop out at any point in the season, you forfeit any prize money that you were entitled. That's just, it's got to be a rule because we're going to pull in a replacement if you drop out, and so giving both people prize money is going to increase how much we're paying out, and that's just not possible. The other one is whether PS4 and Vita are going to be allowed. This is something we talked to Ryan about, and to see if there were going to be any version differences. His word is that it's going to be a fairly faithful port. Hopefully, nothing's been consciously fixed, like no existing bugs have been consciously fixed. So, maybe something else will pop up that we don't know about yet because it hasn't launched, and it won't launch for a couple weeks. But the current thing from our end is that it is going to be allowed racing on PS4 and Vita. Obviously you have to cast it still, so unless you have a capture card, you're probably not going to be playing on Vita or streaming on Vita. But as long as you can stream it and it's not like a freaking handy cam while you're doing it in as a handheld, then it's going to be allowed, unless and that's going to be we've kind of phrased it as provisionally allowed. So if it does come out that there's some big Vita only bug that shaves 2 seconds off an average race time, then it'll be banned.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's good. Of course, we want to be as inclusive as possible. I imagine that most of the people in chat right now are PC enthusiasts, but share the word. And of course, just on an overall message beyond CoNDOR, we do want to be as inclusive as possible, despite the fact that obviously PC Master Race. But we want to be as inclusive as possible because Necrodancer community is awesome, and we want to include PS4 and Vita people as much as possible too. So provisionally approved, I think, is a good way to go about it. As long as nothing is too weird or wacky, then we're going to go with it. Like, obviously, with Binding of Isaac, you would never be able to do that because there is dramatic differences between the console port and the PC port. But according to Ryan, they're pretty faithful, so I think it's going to be good. Yeah, so that's a lot of fun. Sorry, Brad, I'm missing. That is a lot of... There's math involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is, as Mac is saying, when you buy the PlayStation version, you get a Steam code. So it's not like, oh, you have to go out and buy this new thing because we've suddenly banned PS4 in the middle of the week. No, it's like you're getting it anyway. Right. You might have to do the thing that you don't prefer as much, but you also don't get huge advantage. So, so that's kind of that. We're also going to figure out some other stuff with scheduling for the Friday casts, but we still kind of need to look into it.
We're going to try and come up with some way in which people can input their availability, and then we can use that to pick from the crop of people who are available. We're still working on that. So I guess that's all we got for season 4. So there is a couple other things I want to go through just very quickly. One is next week is CoNDOR. I think the signups are still open for that. Matt can correct, but here is where you do your signing up for it. So signups are available for CoNDOR as well as Conduit. I encourage you to join because it's super fun. Both times are great. CoNDOR is, of course, the Saturday during the middle of the day. It's the Euro-friendly CoNDOR, so that doesn't mean you have to be from Europe to be part of it. That was the original plan, but we sort of relaxed that a little bit just to be inclusive. But it is during Saturday during the day if you're in North America, like sort of Euro-friendly times. And then Conduit is our junior league if you're just getting into Necrodancer racing or you want to be part of the community in a bigger way. please, 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 by all means, join that. We would love to have you. There is like no real skill bottom as long as you can finish the game within like 20 minutes. Probably if you'll want to get that down to like 15 or whatever. We typically don't take anybody who's too much faster than like 10, maybe 9 minutes. So we want to keep it like, it's sort of a tricky issue for us is we don't want to like say you're not allowed in Conduit, but we don't want Conduit to basically rise to CoNDOR's level because we want to encourage people to sort of work their way through Conduit. And of course, the winner of that does we have prize money for all of this. Thanks again to Ryan Clark for all of his prize money. I think prize money is going to maintain the same rate except for tonight's tournament. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Will?
Yep, that's correct. Tonight's was a little bit lower just because it was, kind of planned later and we had already allocated money elsewhere.
That's right.
Like season 4.
Yeah, so we've got, and season 4 is going to be the same? What was season 4's prize money?
I think it's
2K.
I think it's $2,000.
Yeah.
Season 3 was 2,500. I think this one's going to be 2,000. But we got to double or triple check on that actually.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, $2,000 is a pretty good chunk of change. Obviously, that'll be spread out. It won't be just the winner. And then we do usually $250 per tournament. This tournament was $100. So congrats to Jack on that one. But $250 around usually. Sometimes it gets split. Sometimes the winner gets it all. Usually the winner doesn't get it all. Usually it's split between at least first and second. But that depends on the tournament. And if you're not positive and you're joining a tournament and you really want to know, we will certainly let you know tournament by tournament specifically. So yes, CoNDOR and Conduit coming up. Please sign up. We've got some good signups already for Conduit. That signup's been open for a while, so we just want to make sure. And yeah, CoNDOR's getting there. I think we're looking for 8 in CoNDOR, but they can probably handle more, especially because I think they can do it over 2 days. So that's cool.
Yep.
Also, yes, thank you, Mac. So Mac Kirby will be hosting another town hall on season 4 for people who might be sleeping right now. And that's at 1 p.m. GMT.
I
think that's on my channel. Is that on my channel? Or is that on his channel?
I thought it was on Max, but announcing it here, if they're here, they're probably not going to go to that one, I would guess. But maybe people want to be in both and
that's true.
Get their voices double counted.
Mac is saying on my channel, so that's fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah, he has my stream key. That's fine. So he can do that. And I promise I won't try to stream and kick him off or anything. Because I'm not positive I'll be around because I'm going to be doing probably some homework. But yeah, so if you want to do it here, that's totally fine, Mac. And thank you for running that as well, just to make sure we get as much information as possible. Hopefully it's not totally conflicting with what we've already got here. Yeah, and so the only other things that are in the works that I'll just sort of hint towards, because I like to do that, is there's some thinking in my mind of how we can maybe do some adjustments to our logo, also shirts, also emotes.
Website is probably a big one.
And website is a big one. That is something that is there something we need from the community in that, Will? Or what's the dealio on that one?
Yeah, I don't know. The ball, I don't know if there is a ball right now.
Okay.
There should be a ball.
There should be. So goal 1 is to get a ball.
Yeah, ping on Discord and we can talk about it. I've just been kind of sort of doing it. But and I'll get it updated for big seasonal changes. But it would be good to have one that sucked less.
Yeah, it's an older website. Let's be real. So yeah, we'll try to pick on it.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll update the layout. Maybe slightly. I don't know. It's a pretty ballin' layout still, so I don't know if we really need to update it too much. Maybe just a little bit of a sheen. I'll talk to our Gromfix designer. That doesn't work. Gromfix. I don't know. I tried. But we'll talk to him a bit, and we'll see if we can update that. But the shirt thing is a very real possibility. I want a CoNDOR hoodie, to be honest. I'm going to definitely get one of those. And then, yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bite the bullet because I just can't apparently get partnership. I'm going to start investing in, not that there's much investment, but in Franker Z emotes, so we can at least have some emotes, so we can get some CoNDOR hype emotes. and something that everybody can use, which will be cool. So we'll try and get, I'm not sure if you were here for this, Will, but I'm thinking we have a Dove doing a Hey Guys, and then we have an Eli doing a Hey Girls, but with a shovel hand.
Oh gosh.
Isn't that the best?
That's quite silly.
It is the best. Oh, good stuff. So anyways, some Valentine's love hearts to the layout.
Don't
and
we
maybe I'll
have
do it next week.
Can we should probably have some train tracks for, you know, when
Going
we
off
need to
the rails?
discuss. And how much better the world would be if we were all on rails.
That's right. We'll get some carrots. Oh boy. What's the one? Oh, I don't remember now.
Which one?
The neck hole one. Bangers. Oh god. I don't know what that is. How did that happen? Oh, there's too many.
You said it, man.
I know. Oh man. That's for sure. So anyway, guys, I think that's all we got for CoNDOR discussion. I think we lost Arachnis. I don't know. She's definitely in chat, but I don't know if she's in the voice channel. Are you here?
Well, she had to rest the whole night. I feel kind of bad. But
Yeah, she might be
I
sort of
understand
worn
if
out.
she's tired.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course. And you did a great job, Arachnis,
Yeah.
and
I'm here. I'm just
Oh.
chilling. Sorry.
oh, no, that's all good. Glad, just making sure. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.